Web3 or NFTs ultimately is just a functionality on the blockchain. I think just how lucky that the creative class, right? Artists, creative, you name it, are sort of the first use case vehicle in terms of that functionality. Obviously, crypto's been around, but yeah, like real estate, like eventually will it permeate into those industries? Like, I mean, it already is, but I mean, coming out of lockdown, like the last couple years, NFT wise has been amazing.
Well, and just being able to tokenize and have use cases and things like that. So yeah, I mean, art is sort of the first use case of utilizing crypto and that people are using on a wide scale. Like there's, of course, like, oh, the guy that bought the Bitcoin pizza that we all famously know.
Yeah.
But actually being able to buy and trade art on the blockchain with the crypto is pretty special. So yeah, it's just a matter of time, I feel like, until we're, transacting our real estate and whatnot in similar fashion.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
then at the same time, I also feel like, I don't know, it scares me to sell my crypto for real estate because then over the trajectory of time, that crypto could be worth so much more than the real estate.
Yeah. Well, the use cases are also, yeah, there's varying levels of like, that makes sense, or that's just bizarre.
Right.
I ended up also too, the power of Twitter, X,
Yes.
and the private messages, like the DMs. But I ended up through DMs having a FaceTime like 11 at night, guy on the other side of the world. And I'm like, and he's like, I want to talk to you. And he pitched a, like the movie Her with Spike Jonze.
Yeah.
But he pitched it where you're like creating your AI self, but like you're giving it everything. So you have like multiples of you in AI on the metaverse. And then there's a token component. And I'm like, no. I'm like, it was way too dystopian.
Yeah.
It was, yeah. So,
But to a certain degree, I mean, I feel like that's kind of where people are trying to push it, right? Like, because we all did kind of do the Decentraland thing and we all were wearing skins and, like it's weird because we all kind of thought that's where this was going.
dancing in Decentraland, like hitting the keyboard, you're like, yeah, I'm doing it. I'm doing it.
No. Speaking of which, so that's what's really funny is Paris Hilton did the New Year's Eve thing. I actually went to that.
Did you?
I did. I attended her New Year's Eve set in Decentraland.
We love Paris.
We do.
We love Paris.
We do love Paris.
That's, and I know we to not jump around, hopefully not jumping around. Yeah, that was amazing. Power of Web3. But early into my NFT journey, like with Clubhouse, connected with a gal by the name of Swan Sit. She's total force, like she's epic. But like a month before doing that collaboration and doing that event, she's like, Swan goes, hey, she's like, I did something. I was like, all right, what are we? She goes, you'll see. She goes, I put your name in for something. And then 2 weeks later, Paris and her husband send me an email asking if I would ultimately do like what ended up being the collaboration, but they rented out the Santa Monica Pier.
Oh my gosh.
For about 600 people and asked if I would be the featured artist to do like a build out, like to have a installation.
And so that's your famous soup can. Is that your famous soup
Paris.
can? Yeah?
Famous?
Yeah.
Sliving.
Famous.
Sliving is her word.
Oh,
Right, so
okay. Yeah.
I'm like, what if we did? Because that's the whole thing with being able to riff and collaborate, and like coming from a branding background, I think just like co-branding and ultimately leading to like brand alignment. I think it's such a big deal, which is also part of like the Getty story of being able to do a painting for the Getty. I was like, what if we did Sliving Soup And they're like, okay. And so I did a rendering almost immediately, and it's like Warhodl and then Paris with her logo. And they signed off, and I'm like, sweet.
It's incredible.
Just, you never know. But that's the whole thing. Like, I grew up painting, and then, like, we were talking about clients earlier, and like, as a creative, like, I got into graphic design in middle school, high school. But like in my 20s, like trying to get freelance graphic design clients to do like postcards and like business cards was such.
Oh, business cards is so boring.
Well, and it was so tumultuous where I'm like, if I could, as a creative, I dreamt through all that and like figured out how to build websites, so like WordPress websites and like front end. I'm like, if I could just have clients come to me instead of like going out and hoping you land that whole process.
Right.
And so that the idea that it's come full circle through art, and like this, that there are things that come inbound is just like the absolute dream, including that email from Paris.
Yeah. So incredible. So I saw a clip of you on YouTube and you selling those.
It's been a blur. It's been nonstop. Ended up selling 51 pieces yesterday.
Congrats.
Thank you. Thank you. At the end, I went over into the corner and had an ugly cry for a second. It's overwhelming. It's incredible. And I just so lucky to be here.
Was that before you did the Paris custom or was that after? Because you seemed really, I don't know, kind of surprised and a little bit like almost emotional about like how many sales you had at that event. And so I was wondering, was that pre-Paris or post-Paris?
It was pre-Paris.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
That's kind of what I thought when I watched it.
Those 3 days in Miami changed my life. Truly, it changed the trajectory of my art journey, I would say, where it was the Bitcoin conference in 2021.
Yeah.
Same thing, like, who is arriving? We were talking about it on the phone today of like, we're in the season of momentum and everything where it's like, shoot your shot. Like, if you have an idea, concept, pitch it. So I cold DM'd the Bitcoin conference Twitter account back when I had like 300 followers. Again, like starting my NFT journey as Warhodl, in lockdown, I had started with 12 followers on Twitter. And so I cold DM'd the Bitcoin conference, and I'm like, I would love to be one of the featured artists. You know, they pick however many each year, and they're like, sure.
Wow.
Part of it is that my first painting as Warhodl was in 2018, but it's a giant. It's 7 feet tall. It's 5 feet wide of Bitcoin soup.
Oh.
So that's like
That
sort
was
of
where,
my root.
Yeah.
But they're like, okay, here's the conference dates. It's in Miami. You're responsible for like logistics, getting everything there.
Right.
I was like, what am I going to do? And so then the idea of like the big like 3.5 foot tall and then diameter soup cans. I go, I'm going to do a collection of 8 different looks. Each big one is a one of one, and then the shelf size versions are editions of 10. And so, oh my God, I'll never forget too, the hotel that I stayed at. I use a company to get like the base barrels, you know.
Right.
And I didn't tell the hotel before I was getting there that like 8
Are they like
giant,
drums, like
yes,
oil barrel drums?
basically
Oh my
synthetic,
gosh,
yeah. So they're not as heavy.
Yeah.
I didn't tell the hotel.
And then there's just this big delivery.
Like in the main entryway for like 2 days before I got there, and they're like, we don't know, we had no idea what to think of this. And I'm like, but that, oh man,
Like
that's like,
became an art installation in itself, just sitting in the lobby.
and the night of the conference, before the conference, I stayed up all night doing all the pieces.
Wow.
For 2 days, but up till like 5 a.m. finishing them. So it's a 3-day conference. First day is whale day, And so I basically did the soup factory, you know, like rolling racks. And the first day I sold like $100 worth of stickers. And I was like, and that's whale day. Not that I had like expectations, but I'm like,
I mean, you'd think more than stickers on whale day.
I have an apron on, and I'm like, oh my God.
You had an apron and a hat. Didn't you have an apron
Yeah.
and a hat? Yeah.
And I'm like, oh boy. That's the nature of putting yourself out there. It's like your heart's gonna race, but you also don't know necessarily the receptivity or where it'll lead to. And so that day I sold like $100 worth of stickers, and I was like, oh my God. And you know, at that time, like what I had made in NFTs, because this was
Before the bull run, probably in 21.
sort of the start,
Okay.
but like
May or June.
it was April.
Oh, it was April. Wow, that was early. Yeah.
And I basically used 3/4 of what I had made in NFTs
To
feed
pay
my
for all
family.
that. Oh, and
Yeah,
pay
to
for all
pay
that. Yeah.
And so that night I was so, I mean, candidly, right? I was like, I'm here, grateful, be grateful. But I was so gutted, and I'm like, fuck, you know?
Not gonna
can't-
make it.
Well, right, exactly. And you can't not show up. It's like,
Right.
it's your thing. And so the second day rolls around, and I'm like, oh my God. Get to about lunchtime, same thing. Any interest, even conversations, that ultimately is worth, you know, more than any dollar amount. But I'll never forget day 2, lunchtime, and Rachel Wolchin, who she's incredible in the space, like really just nails it on like the community front. She was there helping. And like lunchtime rolls around, and I tell her, I'm like, I need to go. I was like, I gotta go. And I leave the conference, and I go call my parents, and I'm in fucking tears. And I'm like, what am I doing? I'm like, why? I'm like, I'm naked. Like, I'm standing there. Like, after a half an hour, they're like, don't worry. You know, my parents are incredible, but I was so like broken, and I'm like, and then not to elongate the story so much, but within the 2 hours after that lunch, between two people, one is like a traditional art world socialite, and then a hedge funder. Between both of them, he's awesome, but between the two of them, I sold 36 pieces of art.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I'm like, haha, universe.
Yeah.
Like,
You
it
did
took
it.
me like getting to that.
Yeah. It always
Accept-
gets toughest right before you get to the other side. Don't you feel like you always have to have like one last test before you make it through?
Yes.
Like it's
The
always like
universe does that. Dude, I remember, I know with the camera rig. After college, I ended up as a photographer, and then pursued it for about a year. Ended up as photographer for a book tour of a book co-written by Kanye West. And his co-author, like after that all happened, which was such a journey in itself. After that all happened, I remember calling him so frustrated that the startup that I was trying to do wasn't working.
yeah.
And he's like, yo, on the path to getting what you want, the universe is going to throw you opposition to see how bad you want it. And I was like,
I know. It's so true. I feel that.
yeah. So by the end of that conference, ended up selling 86 pieces of art.
Incredible.
Yeah, it changed the whole deal.
And okay, so then that obviously more than paid for itself and
Yeah.
gave you all of the fuel you needed to keep going
Yeah.
on your
I was
journey.
like, all right, okay.
I can do this now. So you weren't really sure of your career as an artist necessarily before that, or were you?
I mean, it was always a dream, but I wasn't pursuing it. I was always pursuing it as a hobbyist, which is a huge difference. It's that in the ICO era,
Yes.
I went deep down that rabbit hole. And then I was like, if I could come up with a crypto art concept and receive more crypto, I was like,
Right.
I would be on top of the world.
You were talking about doing ordinals in 21 and doing
the
stuff on
conference.
Bitcoin. And I'm like,
Yeah,
nobody
you know.
was doing that back then
For the conference, I was trying to figure out how to mint those NFTs.
to make it work. Yeah.
And like, there was like there was a layer 2 solution on Bitcoin that they were suggesting, but it just wasn't sturdy,
Yeah.
for lack of a better, I know. And now where we're at with everything,
It's crazy how far it's come.
it's incredible.
It's crazy. Yeah.
So it just, I guess, from ICO era to lockdown, it was a hobby. Like I was doing a startup, and then on the side, like randomly painting these crypto soup cans. And then it was discovering a tweet, actually. Like at that point, I was just like read only on Twitter, you know? A neighbor who actually invited, it's the same Aaron, he's epic. The neighbor that invited me on a Clubhouse in lockdown is the same neighbor, is the same person that retweeted something about NFTs. And I was like, what is this?
Uh-huh.
I was like, oh God. I was like, took a second. I'm like, I can't not push the button
Right.
and see what happens.
Yeah. It was very addicting.
Yeah.
I didn't get into Clubhouse, but I did get into NFTs in 2021 on ETH. I was a little late though. You know, I saw what was happening with Bored Apes and, you know, like everybody else, I just kind of flocked in and, you know, gas fees were astronomical. Like trying to mint stuff. It was like $300 to $600 just to buy something on the blockchain back then.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
That was one of my soup cans that like put me on the map. Which I leave my ego out of all this because I've been burned so many times in startups, thinking like I'm onto it, and then you know the universe kicks in. But really, this gas fees, what the fuck soup can, it really like it had a long tail of visibility on Twitter where it sort
People
of
liked it.
yeah, like that piece into specifically. There's a few like that where just there's an undeniable like rise in brand or awareness.
Yeah.
I say brand.
I
That's
know.
my background. Sorry. Artist.
Don't, you know, I definitely knew your soup can. I saw it and I knew what it was on the time. I didn't know what it was, but I saw it on the timeline back then. And so, of course, I didn't connect with you until you started coming. Like, I think we connected in a group chat, but you came to IRL Alpha. And anyway, so that was kind of, but I knew who you were through that. And so, yeah, that is something that, like, even though I didn't know you, I did know the soup can. So,
And
your soup can is famous.
soup cans. That for the longest time on my Twitter profile and was decentralized pop artist owning the soup can and just like bringing it riffing, you know, on Americana, but and also too that's been a thing because actually I don't want to jinx it. I just my cousin's my attorney. He's like the Ari Gold of law. He's amazing. But when I came up with the idea in 2018, also the name, I'm like, am I gonna get fucked if I try and do either? I know the concept or the name and
Right. Copyright infringement.
and trademark, active trademark.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean,
because
there's
you did get a trademark on it.
on Warhodl.
Yes.
Not the soup can, but
Not the soup can. Yeah.
I will. Here's a story, and this is still like figuring it out.
It's a good one to talk about because in the space we talk about IP and licensing and
It's a huge deal.
Yeah.
Well, and having, I mean, in the past, the startup stuff that I keep mentioning, like, one project was an iPhone app, beverage company. So like each time it's coming up with like the brand identity, getting it trademarked. Is the name of, what's the name? Is the .com available? Are the social handles available?
so
Like,
much work.
and so like having that radar, I just approached it immediately that way with Warhodl. And
Smart.
the trippy thing that's happened, and this is still who knows? But back to DMs. I got a DM probably like I don't know, a few months ago. I'll say, I was gonna say 5 months, but a woman goes, "Hey, I'm a collector of yours. By the way, I'm a director at Campbell's." And I was like, "Huh?" And so we ended up having calls, and like she is, in fact,
Works at Campbell's.
she's been at Campbell's for a very long time.
And because it's near and dear to her, so.
Her neighbor got her into Web3.
Oh gosh.
That's the only reason why she's a crypto person.
Yeah, that's so funny.
And what that's led to is being connected through her to the head of marketing at Campbell's and the head of PR at Campbell's, in a good way.
Yeah, right.
Because that could have gone.
It could have gone bad. Yeah.
We were talking about some ideas, but then it's like, ultimately Campbell's is, 6,000 employees. So like there's chains of process. But yeah, like to get that. Also, I know I'm rambling.
No, you're good.
It's good.
Yeah.
A traditional art world person has become I met at the Paris event, actually.
Yeah.
She's been a curator for the Warhol estate, or the Warhol Foundation.
Oh.
For the Warhol Museum.
Wow.
For many years. So like that, also doing the Getty piece, I do feel like that was a bit of a stamp.
It's almost like a generative piece, right? Not to call it a generative piece, but it's like almost like you made your own version of it.
A riff on a riff.
Yeah.
I do, literally last night, I came up with, because the idea that Warhodl riffs on like pop art or Americana and like pop culture.
Yes.
Last night I came up with the next thing of riffing on Americana, and it's a departure from soup cans, and I think it will be. I think it will be the thing that is defining, not just like, oh, he changed to soup can. It's
Right.
really good.
Yeah. So another like iconic pop culture piece.
Yeah.
But yeah,
One of the-
that's really exciting.
I will. Yeah.
You can show me, and I just won't tell the people that are watching.
I will do it right. Oh wait. I will do it
And
right.
I just won't tell anybody.
I will do it right now.
So yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
I love it.
Thank you. Super gloss.
So are you doing like on-chain certificates of authenticity with any of these pieces, or have you not gotten that far yet?
That's an interesting one, and I would love your take as well. It's like, to what degree is, those three letters, NFT, like, to what degree is there a stigma? Do we reach a point where, ultimately, like, if NFTs are another medium, do we reach a point where there's on-chain provenance, or it lives on, it's digital first, and then, like any tech experience, like if you log into Picket social app, like you don't necessarily know what coding language it's in.
Right.
You just get the experience. Like, do we get to that point where it's not NFTs? It's like, it's digital certificates,
don't even
digital
realize
tokens.
what it is, yeah.
Or Starbucks calling them stamps.
Yes.
Digital stamps.
Right. Yeah. I feel like crypto art is going to be one of two ways. It's going to be just like your typical crypto generative art, or it's going to be the fine art. And, I think there's definitely going to be a difference between the two. And I think that there's space for both of those. But I really see a lot of I don't know, I think that fine art on chain is going to kind of take off more than people realize. And so I like that because, before, when we first got into the space, there wasn't really a whole lot of way to be able to tell what was going to be good or what was going to last. And, of course, There's a difference between 10,000 collections and, something that's like one of one custom made pieces. But
Right.
I love the way that the digital art is going, and, it's
Oh my
just
God.
unlocks this whole new world.
Completely. Prior to the connectivity of Web3, it's like you're competing for that gig, or like in my case, it's like you're checking out like other people's Behance profiles, like for inspiration.
Yeah.
Now that we're all connected this way, it on such a strong common interest, that in itself is amazing.
So special.
And then the idea that like you mentioned with the PFPs and like especially that number of size, that the sense of belonging, that's what it is. And to get that through to get that through a JPEG, living on the internet is remarkable.
There's different use cases, right? Like if you're into fine art and you want this very curated, small niche community of people that are very passionate about fine art, you can buy into a collection that's, higher floor price, and you could look at something that's, going to give you access to events and community, and then that you actually want a bigger collection. I feel like if you're going to go to an Ape Fest, you don't want it to be a small number of holders. There's going to be 5 people there. You're going to want a bigger collection, more people, more inclusion.
Completely. Ape Fest is a great testament, though, to as much as, we're digital, as much as we live, online, you can't replace that human experience of see it, feel it, touch it.
For sure.
And to bring everyone together in such a way like that, but like IRL alphas, on Thursdays, there's nothing like crypto hugs, like the Web3 hug. Internet becomes real.
Part of why I do this show the way that I do is because I like the human interaction. Like doing a call and we're, over a YouTube, it feels so conferencey. It doesn't have that personal touch to it.
Drab.
Yes.
There's
you don't get the
not
personal element. And so, that's where this has kind of been, I'm addicted to this, coming back every week and having the human interactions and meeting people. And
well, and the good on you. Seriously, that the consistency element is such a big deal.
I mean, Chris has been at it way longer than I have.
Chris is a legend.
Yeah. So, I don't know how much more I have. Let me think about it really quick. There may have been one other question. Oh, I do want to talk about the stuff that you're working on currently.
Yeah.
What I know I messaged you about what you have on Rarible. Did that ever come out? Was it on Rarible? I think it was. Did I hear you say something about something coming out on Rarible? You talked about it. I need to not say anything.
No, that's okay.
Okay.
No, that's still.
I heard you talk about it at IRL Alpha. That's what it was.
It's changed a little bit in aim, but probably towards the end of this month.
Okay.
Just to celebrate one, Rarible being so early in the game, and then also the launch of their blockchain.
Mm-hmm.
The co-founder Alex, I got connected with through an IRL friend in early 2021, and then ended up spending time in lockdown, NFT rooms, including co-founders or founders, was 30 people. And it's we just crash landed, and it's kind of looking around and figuring out same thing, shoot your shot. I saw the launch of Rari Chain, saw the 10 artists, Himina being the lead of that, which is incredible. She's awesome. And I'm like, So I again, shoot your shot, I DM'd Alex. I'm like, what if we did this idea? Mm-hmm. And he responded, I haven't interacted with him since those Clubhouse days.
Right.
And he's like, this is good. And then 5 minutes later, puts me into a group chat with, whoever else at Rarible. That's really cool that he was even receptive to the idea.
Yeah.
The big thing for me is that I'm sort of combining everything. And I spoke on the panel last week at IRL Alpha, in creating a Web3 project called Anti-Alpha,
Okay, tell me about it.
And it's streetwear meets PFP meets like Degen, but riffing in a playful way. Because anti-alpha could have such a stark, but the same way that as Warhodl, like again, I riffed on Americana. It's riffing on the culture.
The culture, love it.
I've had a certain view, like my art file I've been working on for actually longer than I like to admit. But then the big thing there is that, like back in the ICO era, especially like hunting like Bitcoin Talk, the message board, to figure out like what coins are launching, and you're just reading comments. No one ever was like, I still remember the thread so vividly of a guy that was like, hey, Binance is launching BNB token. And at that point, that was just to cut down on the transaction costs that you paid to buy and sell on their platform. That's all it did, instead of the USD cost. But that was, at less than $1. And so you're just reading people's opinions. No one was ever saying, this is alpha. Right. Like, scroll down for alpha, or like, or Twitter Spaces, like...
We've given it a term. We've labeled it.
Well, alpha is correct, but the way that it's been blown out of proportion,
right?
That was the impetus on the naming front, where I'm like, it's tough to take it seriously because it's become such a namesake, where I think like the best alpha, or like the best potential plays and like things is discovering it, no matter like group chat but discovering it, and then you have your own hunch of like, should I?
Yeah.
It's not like this is alpha, research. So you really.
Right. Yeah. So and so said. Yeah. Right.
At that point, it's like
we put a lot of. There's people we put on pedestals for sure.
It's the same way that spiritual's become a buzzword in the last like 5-ish years. Everything's spiritual, like the tea.
People aren't religious anymore. They're spiritual.
Right.
Yeah.
Super enlightened.
Yeah, they're very yes.
So there's the physical product aspect of it, and then there's also doing a PFP aspect of it. That's a departure again from soup cans. A tokenization aspect of it as well. The token aspect, I should say. And then the space that we're in right now, actually sponsored by Talago.
I love it.
Greg is a part. It's a great hard seltzer, and Greg is a partner in this company. And so, again, floor level being retail, and this being one of the busier streets running into Sunset. This will be like ground zero for the launch.
Yeah, I love it.
And then the secret thing too is that I learned how to DJ last year, because I'm like a big house junkie and all this stuff.
I get it. I was a house head too.
I still am.
Yeah. I mean,
are you?
Yeah, of course I am.
Was. Oh.
I mean, I don't like frequent the scene like I used to.
Well, that's a whole different animal.
Yeah. I still listen to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a whole different animal.
Yeah.
And I'm like, there's an artist by the
other animal. We probably went to the same clubs.
Yeah. I mean, I try and steer. I can only do so many late nights before I like questioning life.
I'm too old for late nights anymore. I go to bed at like 9 or 10 o'clock.
I'm 100, so. But there's an artist by the name of Alec Monopoly.
I know Alec Monopoly, yeah.
Do you? Like,
I don't know him personally, but I know his art. So, because I know him, if we're talking about the same person that you did that art for, Alec Monopoly did some work for him in the past.
We'll have to.
Yeah, you'll have to ask. But I'm pretty sure the house in Malibu, he had Alec Monopoly paint a mural on that like wall out by the beach at his house.
Interesting. When he started live painting, or figured out how to DJ, and then live painting during a set, start to finish, more or less, I'm like, oh my God, like that's brilliant.
Yeah.
It's epic.
It's a full show.
Yeah, and like I geek out on boiler room sets and stuff. And seeing Alec do that, I'm like, soup cans. I'm like, I could do that. So I learned how to
Can raves. Let's do it.
Right. Actually, downstairs the DJ booth.
Yeah.
Those are going to be replaced by.
The soup cans.
Yeah.
I hope so.
Yeah.
You better.
It's going to be like 6.
Let me know whenever you have the opening, whatever grand opening you have here. I want to be here.
Yeah,
Really
very.
excited.
It's going to be like 8 of those. Yeah. Absolutely. So I think that's brilliant, and then it combines the interests, and so that's one of my things.
Mm-hmm.
So, Anti-Alpha, I'm doing a podcast, the Anti-Alpha
perfect.
podcast. Just sort of like running everything possible creatively through that.
I love it.
Yeah.
Being the platform to be able to show off the different mediums. Yeah.
Yeah, and even like one of the really cool upcoming projects, like they asked to collab on the merch side.
Mm-hmm.
So being able to do collaborations, it's not just merch, it's products.
Yeah.
But
I like it.
yeah,
Well, I love where you're going with everything.
Thank
I
you.
look forward to hearing more. And
appreciate it. I'll be here.
seeing where you go. Yeah.
Be sitting right here.
Great.
I appreciate it so
We'll wrap
much.
that in.